Do you realize the way you're holding your coffee cup, you're flipping me off. It was funny. It's the second time I've been flipped off today.
Yeah, it got your index finger.
You are listening to EMS with your hosts, Erik Axene and Matt Ball.
You have an interesting story.
Well,
this is one of our early podcasts. Yeah, we just tell our stories. And then maybe in a future episode we could tell some other stories. But I think how did you become a paramedic? How did it start? I know you did some interesting things.
Yeah. Most guys I think kind of not dream maybe, but grew up thinking they would be a firefighter. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely 100% did not have that dream. Never thought about being a fireman a day in my life. When I was in high school, I had an English teacher whose husband was a fireman outside of Chicago. Visited his firehouse. Thought it was cool. All right, it was cool. Still had no desire to do it. Used to ride horses for a living. Lived up in Washington State, where we have that in common. Got married, moved down to Texas to kind of do the horse thing full time. And met a guy who was a volunteer fireman. And it was actually Easter Sunday. This is probably, 2002 probably, Easter Sunday. And we were going to bring him dinner up to the fire station because they were volunteer guys. So we thought, we'll bring him up some Easter dinner. And we went up there, and while I was there, they caught a call on the ambulance. And this is a small volunteer department. They had one paramedic on the ambulance with an EMT, and then they got paid like $9 an hour, like nothing, to run any 911 calls. And then if anybody showed up to ride the fire truck, that's who you got. If nobody showed up, that's what you got. Anyway, they had an ATV rollover wreck, and they said, hey, you want to ride with us? And I was like, sure, why not? So I jumped in the back of the ambulance. They took off, went on this wreck. Girl was hurt pretty bad. They actually called in a helicopter to airlift her to a level 1 trauma facility. I had no idea what they were doing, but I thought it was super cool. Definitely a career where they help people. So that really intrigued me. But didn't think much of it. And about a month later, he called me and he said, hey, there's a fire school coming up. You want to go to it with me? And long story short, at the time, I was kind of thinking, maybe I need to do something else. And so I thought, sure, why not? And so that was kind of the beginning. But if you would have told me when I was 15, 16 years old that I would be a firefighter, paramedic, and a nurse and all that kind of stuff and really like the medical stuff, I would have told you you're crazy. I never would have thought that.
With my story, I actually my dream was to become a firefighter, a paramedic.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's a little more complicated than that. But I was teaching at the time in Southern California, and I initially wanted to go to medical school, but I decided to go teach instead, take a little bit of a break from the medical track. And while I was a teacher, I decided instead of going to medical school, I'd become a volunteer firefighter in my local fire department.
Okay.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And then I loved that so much, I decided, I want to make this my career. So I tested, and I was waiting to get hired on. And
this in California.
I was in California, yeah. So, and
don't hold that against
they have hiring bands, right? So you different levels.
Yeah.
And so I was in the next hiring band.
Yeah.
The first hiring band, and I was just waiting to get hired on.
Yeah.
And right around that time, they extended the retirement age. And so, anyway, I'd quit my teaching job. I didn't know what I was going to do. Ended up working for my dad for a little while, and then applied to medical school. And got into medical school before I got a firefighting job.
Yeah.
Super competitive profession. But if they hadn't extended that retirement age, I'd be a firefighter today.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, though, now as an ER doctor, especially medical director, is see the combination of being an ER doc, teacher, and
medical director and all that.
Yeah, you get to do, and I've even get to even help out on some fires from time to time.
Absolutely.
It's a ton of fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's a great career. We're actually, I think, seeing a decline in the amount of people that are applying to be firefighters and paramedics, which is kind of scary. I don't know if it's scary, but back when I hired on, and I got hired on in 2004, so shortly after 9/11, and there was this big rush to become a firefighter and service and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, I really feel very blessed. I feel like it was definitely what I meant to do. I love the fact that we get to help people. I had a pastor actually tell me one time, he said, Matt, you get put in your line of work as a firefighter paramedic, you get put into more unique situations than any other career path I can think of. Yeah. He said people will trust. I mean, for years, firefighters, paramedics have been one of, if not the most trusted profession in the world. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of work to keep that up. But there's no other job I can think of where somebody would walk out. And I tell my new trainees this when they come to me, that this is the level of responsibility that you have. This is the level of integrity that you have. That's a mother will walk out and hand you their baby, the most precious thing in their world, without even knowing your name. You can take it, jump in a truck, and leave, and they don't think for 1 second about it. They completely have that much trust in you. There's not another job in the world that they would do that. And it's a awesome responsibility. It's amazing to be able to be with people in those times, to be the person to bring some calm and some help to those people. It's really, really cool.
I feel the same way with medicine. In that exam room, I have patients sharing with me some of the deepest secrets, things they wouldn't even tell their spouse sometimes. Yeah. They're sharing with me their health concerns. It's a real honored relationship. The patient-physician relationship, the patient-paramedic relationship. I mean, we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And oftentimes you have the privilege of being in situations that I can't be in. You're in their environment,
right? Absolutely.
Which is unique. And then you bring them into your environment, so you kind of get to see both, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't, but it is a special relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, super cool. Now you have you're not just an ER physician. You've also got a little side gig that you do that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, emergency medicine is really like the Swiss Army knife of medicine in my mind.
Yeah, it's kind of like being a paramedic. Yeah, you got to know everything.
Yeah, I sometimes tell my patients that I'm a mile wide and an inch deep.
There you go. Yeah.
Maybe with traumas we're a little bit, more experienced and more of an expert in that field. Right. But there really isn't a physician around that can handle anything. Yeah. Like an ER doctor can. So I'm really proud to be part of that group of doctors. Yeah. I think another cool thing about emergency medicine too is it's given me opportunities to do some other types of jobs, working with health plans all over the country with different types of healthcare related jobs, working with other doctors and other actuaries, and I've really enjoyed that. It's a way to use medicine to help doctors. Yeah. And to preserve the doctor-patient relationship. Yeah. Because a lot of healthcare changes right now, and there aren't a lot of doctors involved in those decisions, so I like to do that. Yeah. One of my favorite jobs that I've ever had is really using emergency medicine as a medical director. Being able to work with other paramedics and other men and women who are doing pre-hospital medicine. Right. So there aren't a lot of physicians that understand that. Yeah. And I don't understand everything, but I do understand a large portion of it. And I think it helps me to be a better ER doctor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Well, you speak, as we say, you speak fireman. And a lot of physicians get in there, especially when they're teaching, and they talk at a physician level. Right. Or in-hospital level about labs and things that pre-hospitally, for the most part, some systems might have iStat machines and stuff. But for the most part, we don't run labs. We don't know what levels are yet. And so when they get off into that, they kind of lose people. And that's one really good thing about you is you can speak fireman really well.
Well, and that's why I think we enjoy working together with Axene CE. We like to take these complex medical concepts that sometimes get overlooked. It's like, I don't need to know that. Yeah. So actually, if you know that, it can enrich your job and help you do a better job of what you do.
You'll understand it better, for sure.
And I think there are things, too, that you'll understand about the world of an ER doctor. It helps you to be a better paramedic when you're bringing in that patient.
Absolutely.
Being conscious of the ER environment and the different challenges we have as ER physicians. Just like I'm aware of some of the challenges that firefighters and paramedics have.
Yep.
I think that makes us a good team.
Yep. I'll encourage my paramedic trainees that if they take a STEMI in, or what they suspect is a STEMI, or they have a complicated 12 lead and they're not quite sure what it is, when time's appropriate, if that ER doctor is available and you have a relationship with them, go up and, hey, what do you think of this? Did I do the right thing? Those are great. Those, to me, are better moments than watching CE videos or listening to a podcast or sitting through live CEs. That is a real world. I just ran this call. That patient's going to be burned into my head. I'll never forget this patient, the whole experience of the call. And then that doctor gives you some feedback like, yeah, man, you nailed it. This was a STEMI. You treated it appropriately. Great job. Or, hey, think about this next time. Let me show you something like this on the 12 lead. That will stick, at least with me. Absolutely. It's very much in context, so that will stick in my brain so that the next time I see that, I'll remember that. Super important, I think, for paramedics to do.
I think the best teacher within medicine, pre-hospital, ER medicine, whatever it is, are our patients.
Yeah.
I think those are the experiences that really, like you said, really you learn, and that really drives home the point.
Yep. Absolutely.
Those experiences. Of all of the challenges you have as a paramedic and a firefighter, what to you is your greatest challenge?
Greatest challenge. Honestly, I would say it's the fire service itself and changing the stigma, the mindset that EMS. I know there's a lot of firefighters out there that they're not EMS people, and that's fine. It's changing. EMS is relatively new. 50 years or so it's been around, the fire service. And there's a lot of firefighters that they don't want anything to do with it. And I get that, and that's fine. But I think that we need to change, which there's two things that firefighters hate, and that's changing the way things are. But I think that we need to look at how we're delivering EMS. And it can't just be kind of the redheaded stepchild of the fire service, because our EMS calls, at least in my system, almost 90% of our call volume is EMS. And a lot of those are BLS calls. It's not, obviously, as you know, not every call is life-threatening. And that can get frustrating when you're running on, fall patients all day long. But I would say the biggest uphill battle is getting people that aren't necessarily passionate about medical care, EMS, to get them to, care a little bit more. And they do care. It's just, it can get old. When you're running on maybe the same patient for the third time that shift, or you're going to the same nursing home for the fifth or sixth time that shift, that wears on you. And I totally get it. But that's a big challenge. Burnout, I guess, would be the biggest thing. Burnout on just abuse of 911 is another one. Yeah. People calling 911 for every little thing. And sometimes, there was a quote, I don't remember the exact quote, but the movie Backdraft, every fireman's seen the movie Backdraft. And the Kurt Russell character, he was talking, I think, to his ex-wife or somebody, and he talked about the fire department. When they don't know who else to call, they would call the fire department, and we just show up. And that's very true, that in the fire department, it could be their water heaters leaking. It could be their smoke detectors are chirping. It could be their smoke in the house, or they've cut themselves, or they're having chest pain, or their dog did, it could be anything. Cops ain't going to come.
Yeah.
Who else do we send? Let's send the fire department. They'll go out there and they'll figure it out. And that's a cool thing, but that can also get a little bit old sometimes for some of the ridiculous things they call for.
Well, I think burnout is huge for emergency medicine doctors too.
Yeah.
And not just us docs, but our nurses. Oh. And there's a whole team of people, physician assistants, techs, registration. There's our EVS workers. There's a whole team of people in the ER functioning together, just like you have a team of firefighters, paramedics, captains. You got your old battalion chiefs, administration. There's a team of people, really, even if they're at home asleep when you're working. Right. There's a team of people in your chain of command. But I think the burnout for all of us involved in emergency medicine is a huge challenge right now. Our staffing shortages, working through COVID. We started off by, hey, you're the hero, first responders, and then nurses just kept beating us.
Yeah,
down.
Nurses. I mean, you guys really, I think, got that worse than we did. Especially the nurses really got the.
Well, you're a nurse.
I know, but I've never worked in an ER setting. But ER nurses. I mean, the ICU nurses. I mean, every nurse that worked in a hospital was dealing with COVID patients. But they really got it with the, like you said, the heroes and all this kind of stuff. And now they're having all kinds of issues. And burnout is.
Absolutely love my ER nurses. I love all the staff I work with, my techs, my PAs, my fellow physicians. I'm a nocturnist.
You're unit coordinators.
Absolutely.
Shameless plug.
That was good.
For my wife.
Your wife is amazing. But no, seriously though, I think that they are a family to me, and I've seen some huge struggles.
Oh, yeah.
Just to give you an idea of our staffing issues at our ER, we have at the beginning of COVID, we had a pretty solid group of ER night nurses, and after COVID kind of started to settle down, I thought I'm going to take out the core group of folks that stuck with us through COVID and take them out to a nice dinner.
Yeah.
And I only had 4. Oh my God. We lost so many, and it was hard. It was hard. It's very difficult. The burnout, the stresses, and like anybody has a problem, they call you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for us. If anybody has a problem, they bring their problems to me.
Absolutely.
In the ER and to my team, and we got to figure it out.
Yep.
Whether
you can't kick them out.
A transient that will come in on a cold night, or psych patients, drug seekers. I mean, there's a lot of challenging types of patients, and they all have needs, and we do the best we can to help them.
And they all think their need is the most important need in a 40-bed ER. I'm the most important person here. Yep.
And then lately, with stories like Tulsa, I mean, now you've got your own concerns for your own safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are all parts of the issues. I asked you the question of what is your greatest challenge, and I think mine's the same.
Yeah.
I would add on to that too. The healthcare environment is tough right now. Metrics and I feel like we're getting away from the core of what we do, and that's patient care. The metrics are important, and I understand that. And I think there's always a better way to do things.
Sure.
The way we're going about it, I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm hoping in some of my other work that I do to be a force for change for the better there.
Yep.
What happens at work that you enjoy the most?
Good. I'm glad we turned it to something. I was going to say
positive.
Yeah, something fun. What do I enjoy the most? Definitely, it's the relationships. I'd say anybody that is a firefighter, police officer, been in the military, even like you say, nursing, especially if you're in an emergency department, bonds are formed in war, and when you go to battle with somebody, whether that's working a CPR patient in the ER, pulling a line and going into a burning building, or, you're a police officer, God forbid in a shootout or something. When you go to war and you share experiences like that for people, that just creates a bond that you can't share in a business environment. And so the razzing that we give each other, we fight just like all other brothers do and sisters do. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, I might fight with my brother, but don't you dare come in and mess with my brother, because you're going to have, however many of them. Yeah, so I mean, definitely the relationships.
You're taking all my answers, because I would have said the same thing.
Well, I knew that. I was doing that on purpose. Yeah. But I have a question for you, though.
Okay.
Funniest ER story. Give me just one, or if you have one, not even funny. Standout, funny ER. I kind of put you on the spot.
That's okay. I think one of the things I like to do is in any situation, I try to laugh and have some fun. As you know, on the studio, when we're filming our CEs, we spend so much time just having a good time laughing. It's hard to believe that's work, but
yes.
The first story I thought of actually was a story I had. A young lady working in an industrial environment with a high velocity conveyor belt, and she saw something that looked like it was going to get stuck in the wheel somehow. I don't know what she was pulling out, but she went to pull it out, and when she grabbed it, the high velocity conveyor belt pulley, or the wheel, pulled her hand in and this thing's clipping along, pretty fast, and it pulled her arm off. I mean, clean off.
Where at?
Her arm off.
Like from where?
Well, it ripped the skin off at the arm.
At the,
the
elbow?
Skin and muscles at the elbow.
Okay.
And then it pulled the joint out up here at the shoulder.
Holy cow.
So when we got the ambulance call of an amputation, traumatic amputation, the arm got pulled off in a conveyor belt. It was the images in my mind were pretty intense,
Yeah.
So I was actually in my mind imagining Monty Python, the guy that gets his arm cut off,
Just a
flesh wound. Come back here, bite your
I'll
kneecaps
bite
off.
your legs off. Yes.
Anyway, I was imagining blood squirting out of the shoulder or something like
Medic's
that.
just running in screaming.
That's what I was imagining in my eye. I was like, okay, crap. I mean, it got pulled off at the shoulder. Where do I put the tourniquet?
What do I do with
Combat gauze, get him to the OR as fast as I can. But the gal came in, and she was in no pain at all. No bleeding.
Had she even gotten pain meds?
No, she didn't. Why? In fact, I offered her pain meds.
Really?
As literally an arm in a bag, and she didn't want pain meds. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to give you pain meds for me because I need to give you pain meds. So we did give her pain meds, but
really,
yeah, it was funny.
That's one tough lady.
She was, and I did a physical exam on her arm.
Oh, nice.
And it had one medical record number, and then I did a physical exam on her, and she had a separate medical record number, 2 separate OR rooms, to try to get these things reattached.
Cleaned and interesting.
Yeah, it was a very, very interesting case. But the funny part, anyway, I remember laughing so hard when she didn't want pain meds, and it just lightened the mood in that trauma bay. And then I said, I'm giving you pain meds for me. And people were laughing. Laughter's a great medicine.
Yep.
That was the first one I thought of.
Especially in a call like that where it's a little tense.
Yeah. It's kind of sad that you asked me what funny, and I talked about an
arm getting ripped off. Yeah.
But that was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stories. I had another funny story not too long ago of a man and a woman making love, and somehow a scorpion had gotten into the bed. Not in the ER.
Oh, okay. Just to clarify.
Well, actually,
I
got stories for that. I won't get into that.
That's another story.
That's another story. It's amazing what people will do in the ER. Anyway, so this couple, both of them got stung by this thing.
By a what?
A scorpion.
A scorpion.
In their bed.
Oh, goodness.
They actually brought the scorpion in. They were worried that, and there's, by the way, if you ever get stung by a scorpion,
don't do that.
There's really not a lot
you
you
can
do.
You don't have to bring a snake in either. We'll figure it out.
So, anyway, that was,
got bit by a scorpion.
Speaking of snake bites, they got a guy who wants bit in the eye by his Burmese python.
Ooh.
An albino Burmese python.
Ooh.
Yeah, the globe rupture. It was a...
Ow.
I know. I mean, who gets
Why?
bit by a Burmese python in the eye?
That guy. In the eye.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, that'd be like getting bit by a sloth.
Yeah.
I mean, who would...
Nobody's going to get bit
Nobody's
by a
going to
sloth.
get bit by a sloth. They're too slow.
Way too slow.
How would that happen?
Never happened.
Oh, that's funny. So ER doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You love it. It's your thing. You like to teach.
Yeah, I love it. And
it's your calling.
One of my. How about you? Funny story. Favorite
funny story.
Oh,
favorite story. Funny story. We delivered a bit. It's kind of a funny but favorite, definitely a most memorable call. You get an OB call, and I tell people that those are either going to be probably your best call or maybe your worst call.
Yeah.
So we got called to an OB patient. Showed up, walked in the house. Lady was in her tub, completely naked, and she wanted to have the baby standing up sumo style. And I was like, yep, we're not doing that. It's her second baby, and I'm like, yeah, we're not. No, we're getting on the cot and we're going. She was having contractions about 2-3 minutes apart. Anyway, we got her on the cot, and this was the toughest lady. Obviously, I've never had a child, but they tell me it's pretty painful.
Yeah.
And this lady was tough. Because we're rolling to the hospital, and she's having contractions about every 2 minutes. Yeah. And she would have a contraction, and she'd just hand me her cell phone. She goes, okay, here comes another one. And she'd kind of breathe through it for about 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Okay. And I'm like, holy cow. Well, eventually, she started really feeling the urge to push. And we delivered en route to the hospital. I was going about 70 miles an hour down the highway. We delivered a little boy, healthy, full gestation, healthy kid. Came out. By the time we got to the ER, he was breastfeeding on mom. good to go. A great APGAR score. And the cool thing was we had called before she had given birth, said, hey, we're en route with, gave a patient report. And we actually called back and said, hey, just so you know, we now have 2 patients. And it was really cool. We got there, and the whole ER staff, doctors and nurses, were out clapping, happy birthday, happy birthday. It was a really neat experience. That patient came by the fire station several times with the little boy. So we got to see him about every year around that time. She'd bring him by, and we got to see him. It was a great call, great experience. Luckily, everything went well, so I'll never forget that call.
I had to deliver a baby once in the parking lot.
Of the hospital?
Of the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Out of the minivan, and it was a pretty stressful moment.
I bet.
And she had twins. We got baby 1 out in the parking lot out of the minivan, and then
gosh,
baby 2 was breached, so we had to come in and go to the OR for a C-section. But that was it's funny. Funny in the sense of it's amazing what we are called to do from time to time, and you never know what call you're going to get. You never know what's going to walk through.
You could go from delivering a baby to a trauma to a
you never know.
Grandma fell down call. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I do love about it is you literally have no idea from call to call what you're walking into.
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
One time I did have a patient once. I was on a day shift, and this lady came in with an esophageal foreign body, like a big hunk of meat she had swallowed and couldn't swallow it all the way down. It stuck in her esophagus, and she had no teeth. And in the morning, it must have been 8 a.m, eating a hunk of steak
and eggs for breakfast with no teeth.
With no teeth.
Did she have dentures?
No, there's nothing in her mouth.
How is she chewing
maybe
this?
she had her teeth in. I don't know.
Right.
But anyway, so that was funny.
And that's
but these
how
are the
you get
kind
to
of
crank people.
That's right. And these are the kind of stories. I mean, you see anything could come in the doors.
Oh,
anything at all.
Yeah, and it's even more. You should walk into some of the houses.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes that's just will blow you away. But yeah, it's never a dull moment. That's for sure.
And that's one of the beautiful things about the cherished job that you and I get to fulfill every time we go to work.
Yep.
And something that we should be very grateful for. But it doesn't come without its costs and consequences. It's a tough job too.
Yep.
So this is a good time, good conversation, Matt.
Absolutely.
I loved hearing your story.
You too.
And I'm sure we'll hear much more of our stories as we continue with future podcasts.
Absolutely.
Lots of fun ER and pre-hospital
Stories,
paramedic stories.
real life in the ER.
Oh, man. There's no end to the stories I'm sure we can tell. Well, thanks for spending time with me chatting about stuff.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.